So for the first question that talks about market segmentation and some of the bases, the first base of market segmentation that I'm going to talk about is demographic. This is where you target people based on things like age, gender, and family life cycle. An example of this could be with like team merchandise on their team store. They can make like new men's and women's and kids jerseys, hats, apparel, any of that. And you want to market them based on to who you're trying to sell to. So if you have like a new men's line coming in, market it towards the men. If you have new kids jerseys coming in, market it towards the kids. The next one is geographic. This could be marketing based on where your consumers live. So say you're part of a Canadian team's marketing group, you'll want to focus marketing to Canadian citizens. However, if you want to expand your target market, then you can try and market to American citizens and try and grow like that. For socioeconomic, these looks at things like consumers' income and education. So for an example of this would be like if you're trying to sell tickets for a team, um, you can look at selling and marketing more expensive tickets to people who you know have higher income because they're more likely to buy them. Same thing the other way around. Sell like the cheaper ticket or try and sell its cheaper tickets to people with like lower incomes. Next is behavioral, and you can look at where you look at like previous purchases and how often your consumers buy. So an example of this would say like if you know someone, if you have the data that someone's been to a lot of games the last year, but they're just buying like single tickets, you could maybe try and offer them season tickets because you know they're willing to spend and they're willing to watch your team play. With psychographic, you can look at your consumers' like interests, hobbies, and activities they enjoy. So an example of this would be like if you're marketing for a soccer team and you want more people to come to your games, you can go to other soccer games in the area because you know these people like soccer, and it's one of their interests and hobbies. And you can try and like market your team to them and get them to come to your game. And finally, for benefits, it's what the consumer needs and if the product is desirable. So it's like putting all the other bases together will allow you to know what they really want because if they. So for the first question with market segmentation, with all the bases, the first base I'm going to talk about is demographic. This is where you target people based on things like their age, gender, and things like family life cycle. An example of this could be with like team merchandise. On the team store, they can have like new men's and women's and kids jerseys coming in, and you're gonna want to market to who you're selling to. So say you have a new kids line coming in, you're gonna market it towards the kids. If you have a new men's line coming in, same thing, you're gonna market it towards the men. The next one is geographic. This is marketing based on where your consumer lives. So say you're part of a Canadian team's marketing group, you'll want to try and focus your marketing to people in Canada. If you want to expand, however, you could look at targeting American citizens and expanding geographically. For socioeconomic, this looks at things like consumers' income and education. So an example of this would be like if you're trying to sell tickets for a team, you could try and sell the more expensive, like better seat tickets to people who you know have higher income because of all the money to spend. Same goes for the other way around. You can try and sell like the cheaper tickets to people with a lower income. Next is behavioral, and you can look at this is where you look at the previous purchases, like how often they buy and how many. So if you want to sell tickets to your consumer, if you know that your consumer's been to a lot of games last year, however they're just buying single game tickets, maybe this year you can try and sell them season tickets because you know they're willing to buy and you know they're willing to come watch you. With psychographic, you look at the consumer's interests, hobbies, and activities. An example of this could be like if you're marketing for a soccer team, um, you can go to other local soccer games in your area and you can promote your team because you know these people in this area like are interested and have a hobby of watching soccer. And finally, for benefits, it's what your consumer needs and if the product is desirable. So, for an example, if your consumer like wants to see a star player or like a big name or their favorite player in real life at the game, then you know this will be benefiting them. Or if the consumer wants to be seen at like a high profile event like the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup Finals, or something, that's desirable to them. Next, for motivations of why fans attend games, the first one I'm going to talk about is a diversion from everyday life. This is where people just want to like watch sports and use sports as like a getaway from their everyday life, whether that be like work or school. For me, like I'm excited whenever I get to go watch a sporting event in real life because it's just different. Like you don't get that like every day, and it's different from watching it on TV, like being in the stadium with the atmosphere and stuff. Um, and I use sports as like a way to just relax and take my mind off things and enjoy the game that I'm watching. The next reason is economic value. People like watching sports because they can gamble on it now. And recently, I've started gambling like on some sports games when I've been attending them in real life. Like I go to a lot of Toronto FC games, and it kind of gives you like a new way to watch the game because you're hoping your player like scores that you bet on or how many shots they're gonna have, and it's like a fun like new way to watch for me. Family ties is also a motivation. That's where people like go to sporting events as like family trips to like bond and get that connectedness. For me, the example would be like my dad grew up as like a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I became one too. Like ever since I've been little, and once a year, like we do a road trip down to Pittsburgh to watch a game, and it kind of gives like that just nice family time, and like we're anticipating and like excited, waiting for the game, and you get that good sense of like togetherness. And then finally, for the entertainment value, people like going to games because it's obviously entertaining, and sports is like so unpredictable. You never know what's gonna happen, and there's like a lot of drama too. So like the example for me would be like going to Toronto FC games all the time. I've been to like a couple of the playoff games, and you get like that playoff drama, and like the crowds like cheering and stuff, and it's really entertaining because you don't know what's gonna happen. You're waiting and hoping your team wins. For question three of a SWOT analysis, a SWOT analysis is something that organization and companies use to get like an overview of how the company and organization is doing. So the S is for strengths, the W is for weaknesses, the O is for opportunities, and the T is for threats. So like strengths are like what organizations do well, what the consumers say we do well. Weaknesses is what we can improve on, what we're not doing good. Opportunities is like where we can grow and what could we benefit from. And then threats are like what our competitors doing that can hurt us, or what else is hurting us, or our weaknesses hurting us. So using the example of Ford joining F1, the strengths for Ford would be like everything they're making now is really cost effective and is a lot cheaper than before. Also, Ford has like a good reputation and brand name in the car world already, and they're also partnered with the Red Bull team, which is one of like the biggest like F1 teams out there. So that's a good strength for them. And then the weaknesses is that there's already a lot of like dominating existing car brands in F1 that are like way more well known, like Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari. Opportunities, um, for opportunities, Ford would be looking to like grow in the F1 world and get like some of the top name racers to join them again. Um, and they could also look to like be joining more teams, like and sponsor more teams, just like more than Red Bull. Like so, Red Bull won't be the only one. They can look to expand. And then, however, threats for Ford could be like if Red Bull decides to sell Ford, because this happened to Ford in 2004 when they're in the F1 before, and they lost out on a lot. For the next question of why is sport unique, so the first way is there's the unique opportunities to keep a good youth and strong like youth community because it encourages kids to get into sports at a young age, and it helps them sort of like stay off the streets, stay out of trouble, and they can develop like a new talent and discover a new activity. And it's also a great way of like socializing for a young age. Next, sport can like transform and unite people together. Um, like you have like fans, if you're fans of the same team, like going to watch the game, it's like a way that you don't really see anywhere else. Like sports fans coming together to support like a certain team or whatever. And then also mention the textbook was the exchange process. So it's like an example of this would be like if you take an event like a soccer game, you have the fans showing up to the stadium, paying to see the team play in exchange for entertainment. It's like a money for entertainment swap. And then spectators buying merchandise and concession is an exchange of money for goods. There are also deals with like the media groups that pay teams to show their games, which is like the money for the broadcasting rights. Another way is that people like develop a unique passion for teams and athletes, which you don't really see anywhere else. Like people buy their favorite athletes' jerseys and stuff like that and wear it all the time. And then finally, sport marketing like towards fans, you get it in ways like no one else does, with like targeting and segmentation. So next, for how sport is different than things like movies and plays and all of that. The first reason is like you get to affiliate yourself with a team, become that team's fan, and follow them and stuff, and you don't really get that anywhere else. Secondly, you get like the game day experience of like driving to the stadium, tailgating before, watching the game, all that, and then celebrating if your team wins, which also you don't really get anywhere else. And then compared to the others, like sport is like season long, year round, with like playoffs usually. Um, and also there's another reason is there's gambling now in sports. Like you can bet on like pretty much any sport, which you can't really bet on like concerts, movies, or plays or anything else like that. And then finally, there's esports and like video games. So like the gaming side of sport, which also like you can't really get from like a concert or a play or whatever. For the next question, a way sport teams have moved past the pink it and shrink it term was like now instead of making women's merchandise pink, it's just the normal colors of the team. Like they're not making it all pink and like glamorous for them. It's just the same colors. And like sports are doing better with the promotion of like women because there's like been the creation of new leagues like the PWHL and stuff like that, and there's more advertising and promotion. NFL teams are also making like women's clubs in the stadium to welcome women and to help like include them better. And then a way they can do better is just constantly monitoring the women's market because it's fast growing, and it is like a really big market and like a really big part of sports. And they could even do things like reaching out to women that attend their games and like focus groups and stuff and see what they want and what they could do better. So for contingency planning, this is where like managers want to be like responsible, control like things that are constantly changing. So one of the things is like sport is unpredictable and uncontrollable. So say if you're like marketing tickets to your consumers, um, and all of a sudden the team you're marketing for goes on like a losing streak, it'll make it like tougher to market because people won't want to come see them if they're losing. Now looking at like the contingency planning model that we looked at in the textbook, the first stage is planning, which is like to understand what spectators want. So, for example, in the stadiums at games, do the fans want like contests in between periods or like chances at free giveaways, more options at concessions? With the market selection, this is where you get into segmentation and who you're going to target. Say you have a new women's merchandise line, typically you want to market this to your women fans. And then after this is the implementation phase where you choose who's going to do your plan and how it's going to be done. And then it's a control phase where you like evaluate your plan and see if it worked and see if it boosted the fan interactions like contests. Did they make fans want to come back? And then for the last question with sport research, teams can use this, like the Niagara teams can use this in the forms of like questionnaires, surveys, or focus groups to know what their fans like really want and stuff. And like also the game attractiveness is like an external factor. Like if you're a baseball fan, you can watch the Welland Jackfish. If you're a hockey fan, you can go watch the Ice Dogs. If you're a basketball fan, there's the River Lions for you. And then like the value of sport to community. So like locals have been here for a while. Like if they've been supporting the Ice Dogs forever, marketers can go to them um, and like target them because they know they're willing to buy it because they're fans. And then my favorite part of the course has been learning about like segmentation and stuff because I never really thought of marketing that way. I always just thought of it like as generally like marketing to your fans and stuff, but it was cool to learn how you could like divide it up and like market to people based on their age and their gender and how much money they make and like their education and stuff like that. And I also think like Taylor Swift has been like a bonus to the NFL because like she already had like a large following from before, like a huge following group. And when the NFL's like showing her on camera on Instagram and stuff, her following's coming over to the NFL and like boosting the views by a lot. And like there's a lot more interactions and stuff, which overall helps like the NFL like make more money and stuff like that.